Heartily welcome to this edition of the Israel Channel. Today I'm in Oslo in the Israeli embassy, and together with me here is Yana Kotlyar-Gal. Welcome to the Israel Channel, Yana.
Thank you very much for having me, Håkon.
You have been the charge d'affaires in this embassy, and what have your experience been since the ambassador was recalled back to Israel?
Well, Ambassador Avi Nir-Feldklein has been recalled to Jerusalem more than a year ago, which were very challenging times for us, especially after the aftermath of October 7th. I think that looking back, it was a very strong professional experience for me, but I wish that we had better relationship with Norway at this point.
How has this time differed from your previous experiences, like in Moscow?
Well, in Moscow, I always have to say that, it's funny, I probably need to work on my timing, because I went to Moscow and I served there at the Israeli embassy between 2019 and 22, also when they invaded the Ukraine, and then I came here, so I probably need to figure out maybe my next posting. When we arrived here, Ambassador and myself, in August 22, we really believed that there's so much wonderful things that we can do together, not only to benefit ourselves, but also to benefit the less fortunate. And we really saw that we were able to create or to plant these little seeds that will grow into full-blown flowers of projects of cooperation. And then, of course, unfortunately, October 7 happened, and we felt that Norway has chosen a side very quickly, it was very sad for us to see, because we are like-minded countries and we have a lot that we can do together, but the lack of real compassion and the lack of understanding was very evident, unfortunately, from the start. So, yeah.
When we continue with the Norwegian relationship to Israel, on June 10, Norway, alongside with UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, did this travel ban for two of the members of the Israeli government, Itamar Ben-Gvir and Besalel Smotrich. What is your reaction to that?
I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame because at the end of the day, it's playing into the wrong hands of the Hamas terror organization. At the end of the day, it feels like a very orchestrated campaign also in different platforms, international platforms, international so-called courts, pressure that is put on the wrong side, first and foremost. And we are in a very delicate time of trying to negotiate release of our 53 hostages, release of continuing for a better future, a ceasefire. And at that time, for these countries to decide to put pressure on Israel, they're just hardening the position of Hamas and prolonging the suffering of everybody involved. So if they think it's actually helping the Palestinians in any way, they're gravely mistaken. So.
The Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar, he called these actions for scandalous.
Yeah.
And how will Israel officially react to this? Do you know that?
Well, no, I'm kept out of the loop exactly like everybody else. But I think it's everybody involved needs to understand that Israel takes this very, very seriously, especially because we are the first and foremost that want to continue with our lives. We want to be at the aftermath of October 7th, but we're not, because we're still at this horrible war that was forced on us. And by allowing the Hamas and Iran at that point to be stronger is a very bad signal to that terror is okay, that terror is rewarded, exactly like terror was rewarded with a state from Norway in May last year. So there are going to be some consequences, but we don't really know.
When we look at it, you see the American response has been very negative towards Norway and these other countries. Yeah. So you have only America that stands alongside you?
No. We have a lot of friends around the world. And friends can be critics also. Friends we can have disagreements with. But friends are first and foremost the ones that care about you, which I don't believe we have here with the current Norwegian government. I think one of the reasons that the United States are so upset is that they are working so hard for a ceasefire. They are working so... Witkoff already had several options on the table that Israel said, let's do it, and Hamas said no. So they're feeling a bit frustrated by the fact that the world is again putting the pressure on the wrong side and prolonging this war. So I understand their frustration.
So when you hear the Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre citing serious violation of international law that Israel is doing, and especially these ministers, what is your reaction to that?
You know, at this point, I don't expect much from the current Norwegian government. I understand that this war is horrible. This war is horrible. I don't think people understand that every war, first and foremost, is horrible. It's not something that anybody wants. But to put the pressure on the wrong side, on a side that is fighting an existential war, a seven-front war, it's taking the wrong side in history at the end of the day. And it's not really helping any Palestinians, which is what they claim they want to do. But when you look at the final results, is it? Is it really? How did it really help the Palestinians? And you know, talking about breaking international law, and at the same time talking against the providing of aid by the GHF, for example, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, that just yesterday delivered more than 2.5 million food, not food, but how do you call it? Meals, thank you, meals, all in one day, in 3 different places. Talking against that it's not the right way, that is breaking international law, it's ridiculous. Because at the end of the day, the civilian Palestinian people are receiving the aid, and that's the most important thing. So to claim Israel is doing something against and not standing by, you know, at the same time, Israel is not only holding this GHF, which I don't know how much you know, but only last night, Hamas has targeted a crew of the GHF and killed 5 members, Palestinians. So where is the outrage? I didn't see that in the news today. I didn't see Foreign Minister or Prime Minister saying something about that. How come? How come? But this is what happens when you strengthen Hamas. When you go and you impose sanctions on Israel, this is what happens. They get stronger, they get more confident, and the silence of the world just lets them continue. So,
you mentioned GHF. Compared to UN and UNRWA's, participation in, providing aid to the people in Gaza, this has been a new development, bypassing Hamas.
Yeah.
Do you overall think that this is a successful action?
The numbers speak for themselves. In the last 2 weeks that this has been operating only in 2 spots, and now a 3rd one, and we're trying to, of course, enlarge that number. They already provided 16 million meals. 16 million meals. And that is also when Hamas tried to prevent people from going and to threaten them from going, and the civilian people went. And at the same time, we have to remember that this route is not the only one. The other route for UN agencies to continue is still working. It's still available for them. This is interesting. I don't think a lot of people understand that. But the regular route is still working. There's 500 trucks waiting to be distributed by UN agencies. You don't hear that anywhere. But it is. And I think it's a success because first and foremost, we see the numbers, we see the people, and it's the best way that we can actually get the meals and the aid to the people themselves, because I don't know how many people see the food in the markets of Gaza. There is food in the markets of Gaza, but it was aid that was stolen by Hamas and now is trying to be sold back to the population with ridiculous prices that they can't afford. How come there's no outrage against that? This is free aid that's being sold by Hamas to try and continue their war machine. This is the problem. If you really care about Palestinians, then make sure that the food and the aid, first and foremost, goes to the real people, to the citizens. And even more important, Hakan, make sure that Hamas is not there. Make sure that they release the hostages. Make sure that they disarm and leave the Palestinian people alone. It's very simple. The pressure right now is on the wrong side if anybody really cares about the Palestinians.
What about the situation with JHF as a new channel? Would that in the end, dissolve Hamas?
I believe in the braveness of the Gazan people walking outside the streets and marching against Hamas and saying, Hamas, you're the source of our problems, leave. And I believe that the world should first and foremost listen to them and echo these calls specifically to disarm Hamas and to make them leave the Gaza Strip and to leave their terror aspiration in general. This is the best way to first and foremost secure a better future for the Palestinians, for their own sake. And if they can march the streets, if they can endanger their lives, because we already saw that Hamas shot them and that Hamas has hurt them, any person that tried to, if they can do it, then the world must do it. That's the only way to dismantle Hamas, to make sure that they understand that they don't have a real part in the next phase, in the solution. So, but that's for the world to do, not strengthening them by sanctioning their own people. Yeah.
When you look back at October 7, 2023, this changed a lot of things. How did that change your work here at the embassy?
Well, we are still, in my mindset, we are still in October 2023. We're not really at the aftermath because we're still in this horrible war. We still have 53 hostages in Gaza, live ones and dead ones. Every day we see that there's new developments. Only yesterday we were able to recover 2 bodies. One of them we know already, but one of them we don't. And every day through this pressure, through this military pressure, we're able to retrieve some of our hostages. But my job here has been first and foremost dramatically changed because we expected more from Norway. We expected them to have sympathy, to have real empathy, and to listen, and to understand that with all due respect, this is the greatest massacre that happened to the Jewish people ever since the Holocaust. And this is a 7-front war that we were fighting. It was the first time that Iran shot rockets at us. From Iran, twice. It's a game changer. And for me here, I'm torn because I'm still with my people back home. I'm still with the hardships, with everything, with praying for the hostages to come back, with praying for the families to be able to start the healing process. And at the same time, here in Norway, I encounter 2 things. I encounter a complete misunderstanding and lack of understanding of the complexity of the situation from the government, and I encounter so much love, which is the thing that kept me going. The last year specifically as a chargé d'affaires, the emails, the love, the flowers, the conversation, the looking at the people in the eyes and talking to them, and knowing that we do have so many friends here in Norway, that's what keeps us going. And it's amazing. It's especially for me being here at the embassy and handling everything. It's a lifeboat. It's a savior for me to have a real community and support here against so much hatred and so much misinformation and so much lack of understanding. So it's both.
Yeah. When you mentioned the Iranian attack, I was in Israel in April last year when it happened.
Really?
And for me it was, it was a exciting moment.
Yeah.
But when it happened, there was like a miracle because only a few managed to penetrate the Israeli territory.
Yeah.
And what is, I mean, some people in Israel said this is a miracle.
Yeah.
And I am, leaning towards that.
I know you.
Of course, because it's like a divine protection from God, actually. And then we had the second, the largest ballistic missile strike happening in October last year.
Yes.
And the same happened again.
Well, I love that you call it a miracle. I would call it, let's call it man-made, assisted by a greater power miracle, okay? Because at the end of the day, it's man-made. Yes. The systems for defense we have, the Iron Dome, the David Sling, everything that we have in order to defend ourselves, that's one thing. That without it, we couldn't have survived, and that is very, very obvious. And the second thing is man-made diplomacy and creating these very elaborate and strong partnerships, alliances of defense to make sure that Israel is safe. So I think it's a lot of, we do have to have faith in order to actually believe that this can happen, these alliances, and to maintain them and to strengthen them in this very hard climate with Iran and its proxies. But at the end of the day, and I think it also embodies the resilience of the Israeli people. Part of the lack of harm is the fact that we are unfortunately already accustomed to going into shelter, to listen into the directives and doing what we are. Because if people would have just stayed in the streets, it would have been a different outcome. So it's also us being aware and being prepared and being resilient and defending ourselves and knowing to go into the shelter. You know, in Israel, it's a law from 1997 that every house, every apartment, every building has to have a shelter or a safe room. This is where we're living. This is the mindset. Like in your room, so you rent a room, you rent a house with 3 rooms, one of them has to be a shelter. This is how we live. So I think it's man-made from, but also I appreciate the greater, divine, let's say, sheltering. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like there is something happening, but of course, as you said, there are systems that cost a lot of money to apply to these threats, but in the end of the day, it really also saved you.
Absolutely, but it's been saving us for since they are there. Yeah. Because otherwise, and not a lot of people know this, but ever since October 7th, approximately, there's numbers, approximately already 30,000 missiles, drones, ballistic, everything was sent against Israel. 30,000.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. If we didn't have the systems in place, all of the systems, and our resilience, and us being aware of the dangers, we wouldn't have been there. It's very simple. It's a fight for our survival. It's very simple. This is how, and this is a defensive fight. This is the thing. These are the people who are going to work, who are taking their children to the Barnhage, and these are the people that are being targeted indiscriminately by all the proxies. What people would say is a war crime and against international humanitarian law and everything, against the rules of engagement. But nobody's saying that. Nobody's actually talking about the fact that this is what they're targeting, this is what they're doing.
So our viewers, they often express concern about the biased media coverage of Israel. What does the embassy do to counter that?
Well, we try as much as possible to bring facts into the table, something that not a lot of people are interested in, unfortunately, these days. And we understand that it's a very emotional topic for a lot of people here in Norway, but we will continue to do our utmost to make sure that the facts go out, that there is, how can I have to say, I'm very sorry to say, but there is no discussion anymore. It's just a very, as they say, a very biased media. And if you have people here in Norway that tell me that in order for them to understand what really is happening, they have to go to other countries to see the coverage so they can actually understand the complexities, and there's a problem. But as I said before, at the end of it, no matter what I will say, for the Norwegian media, I am propaganda. It doesn't matter what I will say. It doesn't matter how complex I will talk about reality. Because in Norway, in the, let's say, regular media, there's only 3 types of Israelis. There's the soldier, there's the settler, and there's Gideon Levy, who doesn't think Israel should exist. This is what they see. And it's a time that simplicity is easy. Simplicity. Black and white. You don't want anything else. It's easy. It's a TikTok world. 20 seconds, I know what I need to know. And this is what they're aiming. But at this point, I say also to the Norwegian media, but also to the Norwegian government, but just have some humility to understand that it's not black and white, that it's extremely complex. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. So you do? Humility. Just be a little bit humble by saying, I am not sure I know. Let's have a conversation. That is something that we're lacking.
Beyond politics, what is the embassy doing to strengthen the relationship between Norway and Israel?
Well, we're working on the relationship with the people of Norway at the end of the day, because the relationship with Israel and Norway, with the current Norwegian government, doesn't exist. There is no bilateral relations at the end of the day. But we still hope, and that's why I'm still here, we still hope for a better future, for a bit more understanding, for a greater perspective of everything. And in the meantime, we're just talking to the people and hearing what they need and hearing what we can do together and create together in a very, let's say, shrinking atmosphere here in Norway, with the LO and with the and with everything. It's kind of shrinking, but talking to the people of Norway, there's still will and there's still want, and there's a bigger understanding that, with all due respect, Israel is not a complete evil. And if I want to better my people, for example, Norwegians, if I want to better them with technologies, for example, with health technology, then Israel is a good place to go to. It's a good place to cooperate with. And that is for the better of the people. So I'm not sure, when it was a couple of months ago, you had your state secretary in Syria, and Norway and Syria signed an agreement for health. I'm like, really? You think that you have nothing to learn from us about health, but you're going to Syria? That we can do a lot of things together for health, but you're going to Syria? Well, good luck.
Yeah. Your time in Norway is coming towards an end. How does the future look for you?
Well, I've been here for almost 3 years, and I've met some wonderful people, and I saw some beautiful nature of Norway. And I will go back to Jerusalem, and I will continue to work for my country and to make Israel the beautiful Jewish democratic country that it is. Yeah.
As your time in Norway comes to an end, do you have anything that you want to say directly to our viewers?
Thank you. There, here, just a big thank you. Again, I couldn't have done it without you, not in the last 3 years, but not especially after October 7th, and especially for the last year as a chargé, being just me and the local team here. It meant so much to me. And I had one of our interns that when he saw that I was a bit down at one of the days, he just sent me, like, you see, they put some flowers, or remember that there is the love. And that reminder of love was so amazing, so small, and yet powerful, that it meant the world to me. and it kept me going. So I feel the utmost greatest gratitude for each individual in Norway that chose to look, to see me, to see us, and to love us with all our complications. Because, you know, we're not perfect, Norway's not perfect, no one's perfect. But to see that, to see the people, that's very big. So thank you.
And I have to say thank you for allowing us to come in and have this interview with you. And I want to just wish you God's blessing for your continuation with the work that you do for Israel in Norway and also in your future assignments.
Thank you very much.
And then we say, Am Israel Chai.
Am Israel Chai, absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
And to you viewers, I want to thank you for following us, and Shabbat Shalom, and see you again next week. Thank you.